cross state lines with hillbillies and guns. It's been a hell of a ride and a whole lot of fun. They gave me many names down there in Dixie, but the main one that stuck on me was whiskey.
On today's show, Jeff Herbert, you may have remembered him from the very first, we'll call it a season. And actually it's funny because we're now on, this is the 3rd September I've been doing this podcast. So Jeff, he came in, I think we did it in November on season 3 or episode 3 of that first.
I believe so. Yeah,
one.
Sounds about right.
So I was still very new at this. A lot's changed, and I think this, the purpose of this is, I'm sure a lot has changed with you too in the last, in 2 years. We'll call it
absolutely.
that. So for today's episode, I thought it really fitting to bring back the Redwood Empire pipe dream, because if you remember on episode 2 of the very first season, we drank this with Sherry and Joel Dunn. And the reason I bring up old habits or mistakes, we'll start there, we'll go with that, is because in that episode, I had actually didn't have the equipment that I have now. We recorded this entire, a banger of an episode. So much fun. We had a blast, the three of us, and get done, go to stop the recording, and never hit record. Oh. So we sat there for a good hour and a half, talking all the shit and having such a blast. And then there was 3 of us drinking on the bottle, and we get about halfway through the bottle.
Yeah.
We were like, fuck it, let's go again.
Full send.
So we did. And we went and we recorded the whole damn thing again, basically killing that entire bottle on the show, resulting in a super good time. Kind of lost me at the back end. So
right.
The fun part about this bottle is I don't really remember it, right? So it's going to be a first time for me, and I don't know if you've had it, Jeff. Have you?
I have not. No.
Okay.
No, I have not.
Okay. So what we're going to do is I'll go through the bottle again, just real briefly, and if you really want to get into the details, you can go back to the episode and look at it. But as I'm pouring this up, we'll just run over the mash bill, and then that'll be it. We'll go like the nitty gritty of what this bottle's all about, because if you haven't had the pipe dream, it's a really fun one. The barrel proof is phenomenal. They have a bunch of new products coming out, and actually I bought this when we went down to Sonoma for the drag races.
Oh, okay.
I thought for certain I was going to be able to do a podcast while I was at Sonoma Raceway. Absolutely not.
No.
Never got there. So I've been waiting to crack this bottle. So it's brand new, but again, we've definitely had it before. So it's a blend of bourbons aged between 4 to 12 years, pulled from barrels across California, Tennessee, Indiana, and Kentucky. The mash bill, very high corn, is about 70%, backed with 20 to 25% rye, and just a touch of malted barley to round it out. Mm-hmm. So it's a very easy drink with the high corn. And like I said, I had a good time with it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I got these bitch and Glencairns. I don't know if you've seen those.
I've just seen them on the,
Yeah.
on the episodes, but this is the first in person.
Yeah, and they drink really well with that logo on them. So that's from Russ at Nevada Cerakote. So Russ, thank you again for the Glencairns. I enjoy drinking whiskey, and I enjoy drinking them with my logo on it. So thank you. So let me go ahead and first do a little bit better introduction of you. Jeff Herbert, ODM Defense. The last time we met up, we talked a lot about your training classes. Mm-hmm. We leaned, real heavy into training etiquette and the tactical end of gun ownership, really.
Right.
And so I do want to try to get back into that as much as we can, because I'm sure a lot has changed with you in the company over the course of the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's a lot more. A lot of the course has been fine-tuned, and we've added a lot more to it. I've been doing a lot more stuff with, some free seminars, going through USCCA. I've expanded, teaching a lot more in Carson City and in Reno, not just down here in Minden.
Good.
Doing a lot of these seminars, and then some other programs that are on the horizon that I can't really talk about yet because they're still getting worked up through different organizations that
Okay.
I'm affiliated with. So some really exciting stuff coming up in November and December towards the end of the year, and then rolling into, of course, the first year is when a lot of stuff kicks off as well.
Okay. And then, and I think, outside of the new opportunities that are presenting themselves in your world, I mean, can you just, it'd be fun just if you could sum up November 2023 to September of 2025 in one sentence. What does that look like for you?
Chaos.
Yeah. One word even. Not
Yeah, like controlled chaos.
Yeah.
We've grown kind of exponentially, and there were plans in place to kind of like ease that growth, just like little at a time, and just some things we can't control, and one of those things is what happens and when they happen. And you become more reactive as opposed to trying to be proactive. So on the reactive side, it's like, oh crap, we weren't prepared for this yet, or we weren't prepared for that yet. And it went from, when I first started this, way back in the day when I started just initially with the poltergeist just got here.
Yeah.
Initially starting with just holsters, I was in my garage, and then I was borrowing friends' office space and stuff like that to teach very, very small classes. You're talking like 3 to 4 people maybe.
Okay.
Whereas it was almost like a hobby, kind of a side thing. Well, in the time frame since we last met, I was project manager for Invictus International and running all the Northern Nevada operations, and having a handful of security officers working under me, as well as all these different clients on the transport side, to walking away from private security altogether and focusing 100% on the business. So I'm at the shop full time. I do work part time down at the local hospital here, security on call. Somebody calls in sick or goes on vacation, something like that. I come in, cover down, but for the most part, I'm at my facility full time. And what that's done is given me an opportunity to where, let's say, somebody works in the entertainment industry. So like say they work at CVI or they work up at the lake, and because they're a server or a bartender or something along those lines, they work every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They have no weekend availability to renew a CCW or get some additional firearms training or talk about some situational awareness or whatever the case may be. So now that I'm there at the shop full time, it gives me the opportunity to actually, hey, you can't come in on a Saturday? Cool. What day do you have off? Mm-hmm. Well, me and my husband have Tuesdays off. That's the only day we have off together. We want to do it together. Okay, fine. Let's take a look at the calendar and let's knock out a Tuesday.
Yep.
Or a Thursday or whatever the case may be. And, we don't charge extra for that. That's one of those things where I'm not going to punish somebody financially because their calendar doesn't happen to align with mine. Mm-hmm. If I have the opportunity to still provide the training and still get them the education and information that they need, why am I going to punish them? Because our schedules don't line up to what I have on my calendar. So it gives me an opportunity to really be able to assist people and do these one-on-one classes, and it gives a more privatized, more personalized, tailored training experience to the student. And it still gives me the opportunity to be able to assist and educate somebody.
Okay.
So that's been probably the biggest change, is how much time I have to dedicate directly to the business without getting pulled out to go do other things.
And with that, what a change. For you, and it now I don't really want to jump ahead of your story, but as you're saying this, I'm thinking to myself, you go, I'm going all in. Now it's feast or famine. There is
Burn
no
the
second.
boats.
Yeah, you have to go.
It was a hard decision to make, and the mentality was, if I'm going to do it, I have to do it. I have to burn the boats. I let my credentials expire. I didn't renew credentials, and I did that on purpose, because if I had, and it was a big financial investment to renew things when the company I was working for was beginning to downsize Reno operations. So the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. Mm-hmm. And I had to sit down and do some really, really deep dive soul searching, hours sitting at the fire pit in the backyard with a bourbon in one hand and a cigar in the other hand, and staring into that fire, finding a sign or a message to tell me what should I be doing. And everything pointed to burn the boats. Mm-hmm. Don't give yourself the option to have the out. So by letting those credentials go, I wouldn't be tempted if the company called me back up, hey, we want you to come do this. Hey, we want you to come do that. I wouldn't be tempted to say, well, okay, things are a little slow right now, so yeah, I'll get back into it. And then I'm giving up my time at my own business that I'm trying to build. So it kind of forced my hand into becoming a responsible adult and focusing. 50 years old, still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up.
I know, isn't that beautiful?
And so I feel blessed because I have the opportunity to take what I do, what I like as a hobby and what I enjoy doing outside of work and do it professionally.
Gotcha.
So it has its ups and downs. But at the end of the day, I get to look forward to what I'm doing every day. So,
well, hey, before we get any farther, to burning the boats.
To burning the boats. Cheers.
I needed that.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, that's fun.
I like
They did such a good job with this. And like I said, I mean, it sucks because they just opened up this really beautiful tasting room. And it is 50, I think, like less than 15 minutes away from the racetrack. So as we're sitting there in Sonoma at the raceway, I'm trying to figure out logistically how that's going to work, right? And so Saturday was probably the only day because we're getting in. Friday was not going to be. I think it was because it's only open on Saturdays at the time, and maybe it's changed now. But it's like, how can we get there on Saturday? Well, Saturdays, all the qualifying and stuff, and so we're not going to do anything like that. We're not going to leave the campus in the raceway to go down, and I'm going to get back there. But anyway, so if you haven't checked it out, I would. I'll plug the handle for the tasting room, and I think they're going to do like catering or food trucks or something. It looks, I've seen some pictures of it, and some of the guys that I follow on Instagram have already been there. But anyways, it's a winner, and it's something that I can always get behind. And like I said, if you haven't tasted any of the other bottles, there's nothing that I haven't liked so far. The Grizzly and all that. So yeah, it's really fun. So again, thank you for taking the time. I know time is very precious to you, especially now that have forced yourself to just go and go because there's nobody else to bail you out, right?
Right. There's no plan B. There's no backup. I'm it.
So with that, now that you've had, and how long ago did you decide to do this?
September of last year.
Okay.
So we're coming up actually. Yeah. So it's been just over a year.
And you're still
just over a year, and I'm still fighting, still warm. The blood that courses through these veins.
So what's the thing in a year that you find yourself the most proud of that you've accomplished?
For lack of a better term, that's something I haven't really thought about, to be honest. So kind of on the fly, I would say recognition. And when I say recognition, I guess what I'm referring to is I'm able in that last year to get face-to-face with more people.
Okay.
And in getting face-to-face to more people, providing more education, providing more training to people, I can be having dinner out in town. Somebody recognizes the logo, they recognize the shirt, or they'll recognize me, maybe someone that, took a CCW class 2 years ago. More recently, with starting at the hospital, I am also now teaching the nonviolent crisis intervention for all the hospital staff, which is all their de-escalation training.
Oh, wow.
So I was doing that this morning, as a matter of fact. We do that a few times a month. So I'm getting in front of a lot more people, and getting in front of those people, getting that recognition and saying, hey, what I'm hearing, not people talking directly to me, but what I'm hearing, I talked to so-and-so who took this class, or I talked to so-and-so who went through this training, and the feedback I'm receiving has been stellar.
Good.
which makes me feel, it makes me know that, lets me know I'm doing something right. And I'm getting feedback from people who are in the industries that I'm teaching about. And I'll just use a brief example that as I pulled up here tonight, I was on the phone with my supervisor, his day off, but he wanted to call and let me know, hey, I ran into this person and this person at lunch today, and was like, what are you guys doing? We just went through the NCI training today. And these two individuals work in the behavioral health department.
Okay.
So one of the things I kind of really hammer on during this training towards the end of the time that we have in that classroom is the importance of recognizing, acknowledging, and seeking help with PTSD. You work in the healthcare industry, whether you realize it or not, you're gonna develop some level of PTSS or PTSD based off of what you see or what you do on a daily basis, just et cetera. And here are two people that their specialty is behavioral health, and one of the individuals said it was refreshing to see somebody talk about behavioral health from a first person point of view and emphasize the importance of staff mental health and how it's important or why it's important to maintain your own mental health and clarity, not just in taking care of your patients, but the way I look at it is, how can you take care of somebody else if you're not able to take care of yourself? You got to have yourself in order. You got to have, I'm trying to think of the right words here. You got to have your, I guess, ducks in a row, in order to be able to really help other individuals. So having people that are in that field say that, like, oh no, absolutely, like, you got it dialed in, this is really good. Or lately I've had a lot of law enforcement coming through CCW classes, which some people be like, well, why would law enforcement do that? Well, a lot of law enforcement are gun guys, and they don't want to have to pay the $25 for the background check every time they order a new gun or whatever the case may be. One of the guys, he's law enforcement in California, but he lives here in Nevada, and he's like, well, if I'm in Nevada, I should probably know my Nevada laws as well as I know my California laws, being law enforcement over in California. So I'm seeing an uptick in that, and then getting feedback from those officers saying, hey, the things that you're talking about and talking about interactions with law enforcement while you're armed and things like that, like, dude, you're spot on, this is exactly what we look for. And so it's a good feeling knowing that the information that I'm providing is good, pertinent information, and that individuals that are on the receiving end of or that deal with that information on a daily basis are saying, yes, that's what people need to be doing. That's what people need to be hearing. So that's been probably like I said, the recognition aspect for me has been very refreshing, and it makes me feel good knowing I'm on the right track.
That's awesome. You just touched on two very important pieces of a puzzle that I am still trying to figure out how to put together, because one of the biggest lessons I am learning specifically from doing this podcast is one of two things. We're all a little fucked up. You know what I mean? We're all a little damaged, and there's a camaraderie that's happening on social media and TikTok, especially the dudes helping dudes, dads helping dads thing.
Dads. I'm very active in that.
It is showing me that there are so many people out there that are asking for help that normally they haven't been, right? And so and then to double down on that, talking about law enforcement, talking about their training regimens, talking about how they're coming to you. It also over these past couple of years, I have learned that there is a deficiency in when these officers, deputies, whomever, show up to their jobs, they clock in for their shift, if it's 8, 10, or 12, doesn't matter. And then when that shift's over, they go home. It's becoming more apparent to me that it is getting more difficult for these guys to find a means to stay up on their training, get out there and fire their duty, their duty pistols, and do transitionary work. Anything doesn't matter. And so it is worrisome to me, because we're now placing so much emphasis on them just being on the clock that we're forgetting that they need to know how to do their jobs. We're not giving them the tools to do their jobs. So walk me through a little bit farther, and we'll definitely come back to this, but on the training side, I want to talk about what you're seeing as far as what has changed in the gun industry, in any sort of standards. I mean, in the world of guns, what have you seen in the last 2 years since the last time we talked that's any different?
Honestly, not much. In the industry itself, there hasn't really been a lot of innovation, or we're talking about like platforms, right? Firearms platforms. Not a lot of innovation, but there has been an emphasis for what I have seen on. I'm trying to think of the right term for it, but the way I'll put it is just shootability. So an emphasis on newer pistol designs coming out, for example, that have a heavy emphasis on ergonomics, grip shape and design, where a palm swell should be, where it might be a little bit more narrow towards the top of the back strap near the the beaver tail for a smaller hand, to be able to properly have good proper trigger placement, where your fingers resting on the trigger shoe, things like that. So as far as technology or any like kind of new cool whiz bang things, there's really nothing out there. But what I am seeing, like for example, a certain platform that's been coming across my desk a lot more, both in students in classes, but also in like transfers and people calling asking about prices, is a pistol called the Echelon by Springfield Armory.
Yeah.
It's an affordable pistol, which of course that's an arbitrary term. What's affordable? Right. Somebody might go buy a $2,600 Staccato and say, this is my most affordable pistol. Well, yeah, you're driving a freaking Maserati is your daily, so right. Yeah, that's, whereas someone like me driving a 92 Cherokee,
which is beautiful, by the way.
I love that thing.
Yeah,
cool. It's I'm not going to be out spending Staccato money, but I can get an M&P or a Glock or something along those lines. It's a little bit more affordable, and over time put a little money into it, make it nicer, make it a little bit more shootable. But with that Echelon, the thing I've noticed is I'll have students that'll show up to a class that have never shot. This is their first gun. They're just taking it right out of the box, and they're shooting a ragged hole for their qualification. Oh. So that's fantastic to see, because as much as the gun doesn't make you a better shooter, it can help in the process. Just like if you're driving a race car, if you've got something that's super, super tuned out and your suspension's dialed in and everything else, that's not going to make you a better driver. But as you improve as a driver, the gear is definitely going to make a difference, right? So same thing on the firearm side. The gun doesn't make the shooter makes the gun. You should be able to drive your gun. So what I'm seeing like on that Echelon is the weight and balance of the pistol. It has a very good capacity. I've seen large 230-pound guys, 6'4", handle it no problem, and I've seen 5'3", 130-pound women come in with like the smaller version, the quote compact version of the Echelon, come in and shoot just as well. They're able to manipulate it. They're able to rack the slide. They're able to use all the features and reach those features like a magazine release or a slide release without having to completely change their grip around. And it's just a very good shooting pistol.
Interesting. And
it's one of those, I think, has been kind of, just hasn't really been advertised as that. Like SIG P320s are dominating the news right now, with negligent discharges and this and that. So that's all, I had a guy come into the shop today like, hey man, I'm thinking about putting my 320 on consignment. I'm like, take that 320, put it in your safe, because I'm not going to be able to sell it, and nobody's going to want to touch that thing. So you have a lot of like some negative gun news kind of like dominating the headlines in the gun industry, and not a lot of hey, here's some things that are really great out there. So back to what's changed, really not much. What's changed in the training world, especially when you're talking personal protection, personal safety, is, we can both, I'm sure, agree the fact that we are not living in the same world we lived in 5 years ago. Now, with that is you're seeing a lot of change in behavior. A lot of it stems from the COVID lockdowns, people having to, disconnect from society for months, if not years, depending on, where they live and what their lockdown procedures were, et cetera. And a lot of people have really kind of forgotten how to function in a civilized society. And in that isolation, they are basically spoon-fed, you're the most important thing. You're the most important person. People's opinions don't matter. It's only your opinion that matters. And then they get out of that isolation, they get in society, and you see a massive uptick in road rage incidents. You see a massive uptick in violent or aggressive interactions in line at the grocery store or at the bank or in a parking lot over a parking space. So there's been this like increase of aggravation, I guess if you want to call it that. And people have less patience. They're not being very understanding of other people's, precipitating factors or whatever else that might be going on that's going to affect this person's day, that they're not having a good day. And then you have some asshole that gets in their face about it. And then that just exacerbates the situation and blows up. So that with, personal safety while you're out and about in public, but also at home, we're seeing a huge increase in home invasions, breaking and entering and things like that. And it's no longer, the one like cat burglar 2 a.m. trying to sneak in through your window. It's like nothing like that. You're seeing people that are kicking down doors in broad daylight, and 4 or 5 guys come running into the house. 3 of them have rifles, or the other big increase that we're seeing because of all the home delivery and DoorDash and everything else now is someone will just go on Amazon and buy a brown shirt and a brown hat and then roll up to your house with an empty box and say, "Oh, hi, I'm here with UPS." Ring your doorbell, put the box in front of your door, wait for you to come out, and then they're sitting there with their phone acting like they're taking a picture to prove delivery. And like, "Oh, hold on, let me get a picture real quick before you grab the box." Okay, you're good to go. And as soon as they say that, the person opens up their storm door or their screen door or whatever. And as soon as that opens, boom, 4 dudes jump out of the bushes and run in through the front door. And then you close the front door. Well, now anybody like in a subdivision or something like, in a neighborhood, anybody driving by or walking by looks, there's no sign of forced entry.
Right.
So it's not like, "Oh man, it looks like somebody broke in. We should probably call the cops."
Interesting.
So there's an uptick in that as well. So the methodology that criminals are using to victimize people has changed just over the last year to 2 years. And then, like I said, the agitation of people out in general public. Those have been the two biggest things, at least in the training side, that I've kind of latched onto, focus and emphasize, and kind of have to change some of the way we present our information in the defense classes and the CCW classes to like make people aware of this.
Okay, I was going to ask that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've actually had to, since we last talked, had to update and kind of reconfigure your entire program.
Certain aspects of it, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, we live in a very litigious society. So on top of the mental, physical, and emotional aspects of defending yourself, whether it be out in public or in the privacy of your own home or wherever the case may be, there's the legal ramifications that come along with it as well. So companies like, I'm a USCCA certified instructor. I'm a business affiliate with USCCA. And I talked to our USCCA representatives about certain legal cases and things like that we've seen come across the desk, or, what we're seeing, an uptick or a downtick or whatever the case may be. And like the number one charge USCCA members get charged with in any type of self-defense incident is brandishing. Okay, well, what is brandishing? Well, it's drawing in a violent or threatening manner, or essentially just showing it off. You just pull your shirt up, you're technically brandishing. So brandishing is the number one charge because maybe it was a good self-defense shoot. It was justified. It checks all the boxes, AOJP analysis, force continuum, etc. All those boxes are checked. So the attorneys are going to try to find something they can throw against the wall to make it stick. So it's usually brandishing. Well, there's a difference between brandishing and drawing in preparation of defense. If you're in a legitimate fear of death or bodily injury at the hands of an assailant, you begin to draw your firearm in order to defend yourself. You're not brandishing. You're not showing it off. You're not trying to use that as a persuasion for that individual to not attack you. You are in legitimate fear and you're getting ready to defend yourself. That's not brandishing. But as long as you have a good attorney that can articulate to a jury of your non-peers what you were doing and why you were doing it, you're good to go. But if you stumble across your words in the courtroom or something along those lines, you very well could see yourself charged or fined or whatever the case may be. So the legal aspect is something that's kind of evolved in the last couple of years as well.
I was just watching a video today about these two fellers who get into, I don't know what it's like halfway through somebody starts recording, right? And this guy's getting in the back seat of his car to get something out of the back, and this guy's over his shoulder yelling at him, like in his face, right? It goes on like this for a second. The guy gets, I didn't have the audio in, but he's yelling at him. I guess he's verbally yelling at him. The guy starts walking away. The guy that was going to get in his car lets him get like 5 cars away, goes and chases him down, just bap, 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 bap. Empties a whole mag into the dude.
That is murder.
That is fucking murder.
Yeah.
So it is just, but to your point, that is where we are right now. People,
Yeah.
I mean, it's my fault for watching the fucking news, but in Reno alone, watching the amount of road rage incidents that are happening up there that are leading into, heated altercations in parking lots or in front of their house. And so it's not just you're getting cut off. It's like they're following you home now. And it's actually, you're not able to get away with what you just did on the road.
Right.
So it's definitely a different time that we're living in, because that seems, I mean, I've been a pissed off driver, but now I feel like I'm trying to drive with a little bit more caution, more cautious as I drive. So you're teaching these classes, and let's talk about this when you have a new student come in, somebody that's new to firearms. Mm-hmm. What is the philosophy, if you could, kind of generalize what the philosophy is that they should be walking away with after they're done with one of your CCW classes?
The main thing I want somebody to walk out with at the end of that class is confidence, right? And comfort, because comfort equals confidence, but predominantly confidence. Both whether it be a brand new shooter on an introduction to firearms and firearm safety, and that's the thing with CCWs. Like with one of the people I train with, he was like, we should mandate that they take a basic class before they take the CCW class. I'm like, well, you got to consider that not everybody has this large training budget. Mm-hmm. Somebody may only have the funding to afford this one pistol and one class. Mm-hmm. And if somebody can only afford one class, do I want that to be an intro to pistol, or do I want it to be a CCW? I want it to be a CCW, so that person can lawfully carry their firearm concealed for self-defense, be able to defend themselves, heaven forbid something happens it gets to the point where they have to. Whereas a basic pistol class, I know the safety, I know that how my firearm functions, I know how to load it and this and that, and I can, hit the broadside of a barn at 7 yards if I have to.
Right. Yeah.
But I think the concealed aspect is more important, because in a concealed carry class, we're also emphasizing mindset, situational awareness. I mean, the first 2 hours of class is That's just huge. The mental aspect of it. Some instructors will tell you that fundamentals are more important. Some will say that marksmanship is more important. In my personal and professional opinion, I believe that mindset is the most important aspect. Reason being is, like, anybody can take 10 rounds and stack them on a quarter at 5 yards, given enough time and practice. Dry fire at home, time at the range, etc. Anybody can do that over time, but can you do it under stress? Can you do it when you have environmental distractions? And what I mean by that is, like, people yelling, people screaming, people running into you, people running into the threat, burnt cordite in the air, spilled blood on the ground. Can you still compartmentalize all of that to where you can still take well-aimed fight-stopping hits and stop that threat if necessary in that moment? That all speaks to the mindset aspect of it. You can be the best shot in the world. Doesn't mean shit if you can't do it under pressure.
And one of the things you do, and this is, and I can't remember what class it was because it's been a couple years since I sat in on it, but you get the students' heart rate up, you have them run with weights, essentially, and ammo cans, I think is what you had at the time. But you run.
We've upgraded to kettlebells.
Okay, well, that's even better, right? So you put not only, you're putting the mental stress, but you're just, or the mental stress, the physical stress on them to be running, get their heart rate up. They're going to get a little shaky. They're going to feel a little fatigue. You're also screaming at them. You're trying to get them to lose that mental focus. You're trying to get them confused and disoriented, which I think if you're in a shooter situation is going to be fucking huge, right?
Exactly. And that's why we do that. That's what we call like our EDC skills class, everyday carry skills. So that class emphasizes, drawing from concealment, shooting on the move, engaging multiple targets, cover versus concealment, shooting from unorthodox positions, all those things that you're going to be faced with in real life. The benefit that we have that not all, we've got some, living where we do, considering it's such a small town, look at the talent we have in the instructor community. You got guys like Jim Irwin and Matt Willett and guys that, are like been there, done that dudes that can take that real life experience and translate it into a training environment where not everywhere you go, you're going to have that opportunity, So we're in myself, Corky, my training partner, we emphasize our real world experience and we implement that into our training. We know what works because we've seen it work in real life, but we also know what doesn't work because we've seen things fail in real life.
Sure.
So we're able to build out that curriculum or build out the course material we want to try to replicate real life scenario, a real life feeling as much as we can. I can't take you out on BLM land and shoot at you while you're running this course of fire, right? You can't do it.
Yeah, it's not a good idea.
Yeah, not a good idea. I might get a couple bad reviews.
Right.
You know, like this motherfucker's shooting at us. Right? That's a no-go. But in order to do some sort of stress inoculation to increase that heart, get that elevated heart rate, get somebody sweating, get them breathing heavy, all these things that your body's going to naturally do under stress, right? We call it the body's auto stress response. We want to try to replicate that as much as we can in a safe training environment, but still letting you know, like, hey man, this is how it's going to feel. Mm-hmm. So you can take somebody who's been shooting a ragged hole all day. You put them through one exercise where you just elevate that heart rate, do a little bit of induced stress. I got PVC blown off of target stands. They're barely keeping shots on cardboard, let alone on target. Mm-hmm. And in reality, that's what's going to happen. Like just a couple aspects of class, and I might be getting off the rails a little bit, but I tell students, if you're going to carry a firearm for self-defense, carry at least one spare magazine. Mm-hmm. Especially if it's a smaller, reduced capacity concealed carry gun, because chances are you find yourself in that situation, it's not going to be you and the bad guy. Mm-hmm. Tumbleweed goes by, draw. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be like that. It's a very chaotic, dynamic environment. You may have more than one attacker. If it's an active shooter scenario, you've got all these other people in the vicinity and all these other things that you have to work with in that moment, in that environment. Chances are you're going to draw, you're going to fire, and you're going to hit fuck all, right? And now you're dry. And now that's just a rock in your hand. It serves no purpose at that point. So I always tell everybody, carry at least one spare magazine, because what's going to happen is during that magazine exchange, that is when your time dilation is going to kick in. That is when things are going to start slowing down. Your reaction time is going to increase while time itself is slowing down. So your brain is functioning at a higher rate, and you're processing information much faster. So by the time you get that second magazine in there, things are slowing down, and you're able to really bring yourself back down into the moment and start start taking some good, well-aimed, fight-stopping hits at that point.
I think they try to give you that idea. You know, they try that illusion on a lot of the war movies and stuff like that. All of a sudden, everything goes quiet, and it gets that, you get that, where you're.
That's referred to as auditory exclusion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There, it does happen.
Does it?
Yeah, I've experienced that while overseas, and it's interesting.
And I kind of brushed over your qualifications, and I really am heavily relying on the fact that people have listened to your episode. But if you want to just, and I probably should have started with that, let them know who's Jeff Herbert and who's ODM Defense. I mean, just the compact version of what they can expect from you.
Compact version. Been working in a security facet in some way, shape, or form since I was 20 years old. So over the last 30 years, I spent 10 years in the Marine Corps, did multiple tours overseas between 2003, 2004, and 2005. Worked in the signals intelligence community, but spent my time on an LAV behind a 240 Echo medium machine gun. So I spent my time overseas as a machine gunner on an LAV platform that provided real-time signals intelligence to battlefield commanders in the moment. So lots of, like I said, over that 3-year time span, there was a lot of months spent overseas, and that was during the time where things were, it was direct combat. It wasn't, thankfully, I wasn't dealing with IEDs and all this other stuff and all this indirect fighting. Most of our fighting was very kinetic, and we knew who the enemy was, and we were running missions, etc. Then after the Marine Corps, lived in Texas. That's when I got involved in the firearms industry, as well as in Texas, working for a shop out there. Then I started shooting competitively at that time. Once we moved here in 2014, I continued shooting competitively, picked back up in the firearms industry. I was working with High Desert Guns, Nevada Cerakote for a few years there, right after I moved out here with Russ and Larry and those guys, and went back into the security sector. And then while in the security sector, kind of broke off on my own on the firearms industry side, kind of juggling both. So I have carried a firearm professionally the entirety of my adult life. Mm-hmm. And I have been in real world situations. I've been in firefights the size of this room. And for whatever reason, God sees it fit for me to still sit here and talk about it. Yeah. So my mission isn't done yet. So
Just getting started, brother.
I feel very fortunate that I get to take my personal experience and use it to help train and educate others. And hopefully these people never have to go through what I went through or whatever any of my brothers or sisters that have served went through, or people in law enforcement go through, right? Nobody wants to get in a firefight in their hometown. Right. You know, it's anybody who says they do, that you need to get them committed. You know, they're either lying through their teeth or they're absolutely insane. So being able to, you know, help educate and prepare people for the realities of what may potentially happen, but give them the training to where they can respond.
Perfect.
So,
and the company, I guess you can do, you know, some of the stuff you guys offer.
The company, so it started out, you know, when I was working with Russ and Larry over there with High Desert Guns in Nevada, Code, I had the opportunity to start making holsters through another individual with a company called Battleborn Holsters. I bought the company from the guy that had it before me. Had never made a holster in my life, never worked with Kydex before. So I was doing that out of my garage, just as kind of a hobby, and it turned out that I make a pretty good product. Being an end user, like being a competitive shooter and a defensive firearms instructor and a concealed carry holder, I make my equipment based off of what I expect out of my equipment as an end user. So I have a little bit of a different advantage than some of the other companies out there. Not going to mention them, but you see their ads all over Facebook or Instagram or whatever. They're big conglomerate companies where those companies function just for profit. The people that design those holsters or that make those holsters, they're not end users. They don't know what a professional might want out of their kit. You know, something as simple as rounding edges and soft corners and things like that. So, hey, this is going to create a hot spot, or this is going to dig if I got to wear this thing for 8 or 10 hours. So, you know, just putting the care and emphasis. Everything I make is made by hand. I don't use CNC routers and vacuum presses and all these other things. So that gives me a little bit of a unique advantage over some of the other companies that just do these cookie cutter types of equipment. So that's kind of where I started. And then I've always, you know, had friends or family or whoever that I've taught on the firearm side who then tell their friends, hey, you know, go to my boy over here. He knows what he's doing. And then that kind of progressed into starting the training company. And then with the gun shop side, that started more as like a necessary evil, because none of us in the gun industry want to deal with the ATF if we don't have to, right? ATF should be a convenience store, not a government agency. Correct. So it's more of like, I have students that come in that maybe don't have a carry gun yet, or, you know, whatever the case may be. I don't want to have to send them somewhere else to go spend their money elsewhere, because then they might say, oh, well, this facility offers some of the same stuff as far as training or whatever that this guy does. I'm just going to do everything under one roof. So not to knock any of the other facilities or any other instructors or anything else, but I take a, you know, kind of a personal pride in my students and take accountability for what they're learning and where they're learning at, et cetera. So I want to make sure that they're getting the best training that they can possibly get. And I try to provide that as best I can. So in having the FFL, we're an SOT, so we can, you know, order suppressors and build SBRs. We're an FFL 7, so we can do custom builds. We're an SOT 2, so we can actually manufacture suppressors if we ever learned how to do it. But we can like if somebody wants us to build an SBR, we can actually say, well, no, we have to build you a pistol. No, we're an SOT 2. We can build you that SBR. We can order you that suppressor for it, et cetera. So, yeah, just trying to keep as much stuff under one roof as possible.
And it makes sense. I mean, you know, so I want to go back to you giving the best product to your students. Through the years of you doing this, because now you've been at it a while, can you give me a specific time where you had a student that just, I wouldn't say like made you proud like Papa Bear, but like a story, a really cool story that made you feel like, fuck yeah, I'm doing it right.
There's one story that pops out, and it's not even like a shooting thing. It was mindset and situational awareness.
Okay.
A female student who was up in Lake Tahoe walking through a parking garage, and she figured out she was being followed through the garage. And I think I ran into her. It was a couple months after it happened. So she's telling me about what happened. And she goes, The only reason I knew the person was following me is because I remembered when you said when you're walking through a parking lot and if you think someone might be following you, you can use the windows off of cars that you're walking by to see who's approaching behind you. So she goes, before your class, I never would thought of situational awareness or made an emphasis on paying attention to my surroundings. She goes, I was that person that was walking through the parking lot with my face in my phone and my purse hanging half off my arm and not really paying attention. She goes, but sitting through there, she goes, it just dawned on me how many things that I do every day that actually creates the potential for me to be a victim.
Putting yourself in that situation.
And she goes, I was able to create separation from the, it turned out she goes, I used your advice about, I took multiple right turns and the person was still behind me. So obviously they're following me. And so then I also knew not to get in my vehicle because when the person following me has a vehicle description, they have my license plate number, they have this, that, and the other. So what she ended up doing was walked right back out of the parking garage back into, I think it was Hard Rock at the time, and over to like an information desk and asked for security. Said, hey, I'm being followed. She goes, a year ago, never would have thought about that.
That's
she goes,
huge.
but now, like, could she have been abducted? I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know the intent of the individual that was following her. But the fact that she took things that she learned that she would have never considered before and was able to provide herself safety, that's a win.
That's huge.
That's a big deal for me.
That's a great story. Yeah. And with that, I mean, I wanted to also kind of humanize Jeff Herbert a little bit, because we talked about a little bit earlier. I know this is gonna be a beautiful segment, because the reality of it is I see you, and I watch, the shit that you go through, owning your own business, and you have your kids, and it doesn't. It's not lost on me how hard you're having to work to get to where you are. So I just wanted to first of all, say, I wanted to commend you, for getting as far as you have and doing the thing that you're doing, because it's a fucking huge feat, man. And I watch you with your kids, and it fucking melts my heart. I love seeing those moments. Your daughter's getting so freaking big, it's blowing my freaking mind.
8 going on 18. She ain't slowing down.
No, she's just still she's so adorable. She's this little nugget. But she's getting huge.
Yeah.
And Zach, I mean, I watch him and seeing his little casts, and it just broke my fucking heart, dude.
Yeah,
broke my heart. But
that was rough.
Here you are doing this thing. So I wanted to humanize you as not only a person, not a member of the community, but as a father, and say that you're doing a fucking bang up job, dude. And I'm super proud of you. So
Thank you,
I wanted you to know.
I
that.
appreciate that.
And
making water come out my eyes.
So can you, and we don't necessarily have to talk about your family if you don't want to, but I want to talk about the emotion that comes with that, the heat that you feel because it is you and those kids. I mean, what does that feel like for you?
Well, my dynamic is a little bit different because for those that don't know me, and I don't know if we touched on this in the last one or not. So you mentioned Zach. So my son Zach, he's 13. He's nonverbal with autism. He's very, very high on the spectrum, so that creates some difficulties and challenges on the parenting side. He is just the sweetest boy, and he's amazing. That child has taught me more in 13 years about being a human being than I could ever teach him. He's just an amazing, pure soul. And my daughter, like I said, 8 going on 18. She's a total sweetheart. She's absolutely precocious. She's into everything. But she has a heart of gold. She's a total sweetheart. She just wants to be kind and help people. And she's a gift. I mean, everybody says that about their kids, but I feel tremendously blessed. And like part of me, I look at where I'm at in my life, at my age, and I'm not set for life. I don't have a fat savings account. I don't own a home anymore. Like all these things where others at my age are like, they've accomplished X, Y, Z. And I honestly never felt that I was going to live this long. Like because of not just the lifestyle I lived when I was younger, but also with the being in the Marine Corps, being overseas. I've had more near-death experiences than I ever care to remember. There's a lot of things that I walked away from that maybe I shouldn't have. I don't know, but for whatever reason, I'm here. Mm-hmm. The way I look at it now is the reason I'm here is because I'm here to guide these two beautiful souls into a very treacherous world that we're living in. And I had this discussion with a friend of mine probably 2 days ago about that aspect, like looking at the direction that the world is going in now compared to where it was, 10 years ago. I almost feel guilty that I brought life into the direction, and I look at how pure my children's hearts are, and look at the darkness of the world and society. All I can do is do my best to raise good people. Mm-hmm. There's a meme going around, I'm sure you've seen it, where it's like the hardest part about being a dad is that you spend your entire life teaching somebody you can't live without how to live without you.
Yeah.
And that one hit.
I know, man.
I was like,
I did see that. I was
man.
Like, fuck this.
So, it's true. And that's not just being a father, it's being a mother as well. I'm very fortunate where my kid's mom and I, we co-parent very well. We get along great. She doesn't badmouth me to the kids. I don't badmouth her to the kids. Not everybody has that opportunity. I feel very fortunate because even though we couldn't coexist together, we're able to coexist for the benefit of the kids. And with Zach being special needs, we both know and acknowledge that we are going to be in each other's lives till the day we die. So we need to make the best of the situation for the benefit of the kids.
I love that.
And I'm so thankful for that because not everybody has that opportunity.
That's correct.
When, I know friends of mine who have had their kids used against them as leverage and bargaining chips throughout a divorce proceeding or things like that. So, I feel very fortunate in that aspect. And that's enabled us to provide a very good supportive environment for the kids.
Good.
So, it's difficult trying to do it apart and everything else, but we're on the same page. We're lockstep on a lot of things. We're both on the same page with Zach and what we're doing for him, for his treatment and his therapy and his assistance there. And we're on the same page with what we want to do with Amber and making sure that, she's coming up the right way, not getting involved in bad crowds and this and that. We can, like I said, we communicate well. We talk a couple times a week about what's going on with the kids at school, or, what are the teachers saying? Did any bad notes come back, or, any of that. So, but those kids are my everything. And when I look at what I do on a daily, it's a struggle being a small business owner and trying to focus on all that and trying to juggle all these different things that I have going on. But at the end of the day, are my kids taken care of? Mm-hmm. The day I die, I can be accused of many, many things. But one thing I will never be accused of is being a bad father. And
beautiful.
That's all I care about.
What is, in the last 2 years since we sat together, what is something you've learned from your children? What is one takeaway you could give me as they've gotten older, 8 and 13?
They remember everything.
They're dumb little elephants. Yes.
Everything. If you tell your child we might go do this, or maybe we're going to do that, at 7 a.m. that day, they're standing at the edge of the bed staring at you because 2 months ago you said maybe you're going to do this. Conversations, little details, I really have to sometimes watch what I'm saying or watch what I'm promising or something along those lines because, they're gonna take everything you say at face value and they're gonna remember it.
Oh, yeah.
And they're gonna bring it up at the most inopportune times.
Of course they will. Yeah. That's what they do. That's amazing. So with as an entrepreneur, and you talked about this as a small business owner, and working the side hustle, and you guys, are you guys 50-50?
We're 50. We're week on, week off currently. Okay. Yeah.
And so that dynamic, and I've seen that, because my nephew was the same. He just graduated and went to college, so it's over now for the most part. It's never going to be gone, but explain to me some of the challenges that come with the 50-50. Especially in your situation,
I'm missing half my child's life. It's what it could like to just go bare bones, cut straight down. I'm missing half of their life. That is the hardest part. Yes, we have communication. Yes, we talk. You know, if I wanted to, you know, if I left here and called Mike and said, "Hey, I need a hug. Can I come by and see the kids real quick?" Absolutely, no hesitation. You know, that's like 10 o'clock at night and they're in bed, obviously. But
that'd be fucking
that's the hardest aspect of it is I feel I'm missing out on so much. You know, like kids come back at the end of the week and it feels like both of them have grown 2 feet in the time that they're away, even though it's only been 7 days. That's kind of the most difficult aspect is I feel like I'm missing out on a lot. And that's where, like, I'm thankful. Like I mentioned, we get along fine. We co-parent great. And so I can call and check in. I can call and talk to my children on the phone, you know, if I'm missing them or whatever the case may be. So, that's kind of the hardest thing. And the other aspect of that is being self-employed and predominantly, like, I can't pay myself an hourly wage. I can't pay myself a salary. I pay myself based off of what I'm able to hustle throughout the month. And first and foremost, bills got to get paid. So one of the downsides of that is, so not only teaching at my own facility, I'm also the CCW instructor through a national organization called Legal Heat. I teach all the CCWs at Sportsman's Warehouse in Carson City and Sportsman's Warehouse in Reno. So the third Saturday and Sunday of every month, I'm in Carson. The fourth Saturday and Sunday of every month, I'm in Reno. One of those weekends is going to land on a custody weekend. So now I have to, in order to like get this money, pay these bills, I have to pay a childcare provider to come into my home and watch my kids. So on the limited times I do have them, every once in a while, I have to bring somebody else in to spend time with my kids because I got to be away so I can pay the bills. And that's hard as well.
Turn this down a little bit on you. Blast it out. Did that to Litka too, man. He's just getting his eyes blasted out when we... There you go. Is that better?
So, yeah.
Okay.
So it's one of those things where, you know, it's very hard at 8 o'clock in the morning when I'm getting ready to leave the house and the babysitter shows up. And thankfully we got some really good, friends and family around here that when I say family, it's like people that are close friends that are like family that help out with that. And, so it's people that I know and that I trust. I'm not bringing a stranger into my home. And it's people that are familiar with, one of the babysitters, her mom used to be Zach's teacher when he was at Pinion. So they're very familiar with him and been around him and everything. So, but it's still like when I'm hugging my daughter at 8 o'clock in the morning and she starts crying, she's like, "Daddy, please don't go. Like, can't you just stay home today?" Like, that's crushing. But yeah, baby, I can stay home, but then I'm not going to make any money. And then we're not going to have a home to be in,
Yeah. And it sucks. I mean, when those days fall, I mean, it's got to be extremely tough for you to, you only have those 7 days and then having to relinquish one of those days to go out and make the money to pay the bills. I mean, I can't really imagine what that feels like. So I'm not going to pretend I know, but I know, we just spent 7 days away from our kids and we were in a 3-hour different time zone. And so I kind of got a sense that it was a very small, very short, and it was, it wasn't the same. I'm not trying to compare it to that. But by like the 5th day, kept missing the kids. Like we were sleeping in and they were already gone for school. And then, we get home and we were at dinner by the time that they were, it was like bedtime, whatever the thing was. And it kind of made me think about that situation where I couldn't imagine a time where I didn't get to see these little stinkers, it was hard for me to wrap my head around. So again, I wanted to, like I said, I'm not trying to compare our situations, but I wanted to empathize and sympathize that I could imagine that as a fucking whirlwind. It
is. And, I look back to my time in the Marines and I remember like when we would deploy, you had guys that had like young children at home. They're married. They got 2 small kids. And we're in Iraq for 6 months. And these guys are chomping at the bit. They want to get home, this, that, and the other. And I was the asshole that if I was in a relationship or dating somebody and we had orders to go do something, I would deliberately like fucking burn that bridge, napalm it, and end it terribly.
Yeah.
because my thought process was, if something bad happens, it's bad enough my parents are going to get a phone call. I don't want other people to have to get a phone call as well.
Interesting.
And so I would deliberately like sabotage things. Is that a mature way of doing it? Absolutely not. Right. But at the time, my late 20s, like, fuck it.
But I think it's common though. I really don't think that it's a very unique approach to a lot of things. I think that that's a very humanistic and probably more male dominant trait to go, fuck, this thing is, you're getting too close.
I never thought to talk to anybody about that. Yeah. You're right. It may be something very common.
I think it's us.
I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah. So, I know, and this is historically speaking, but there's been plenty of times where I'm just like, this fucking thing has got to go, and it's got to go as hard south as it can go, and just fucking grenade the thing.
I want this person to hate me.
Yeah.
Hate me. That way they're not going to think about calling me. Mm-hmm. They're not going to think about if I'm okay. They're not going to think about, are we going to get back together when he comes back? Right. I want to just burn it to the fucking ground. And that way too, while I'm gone, I can focus on the mission. I'm not thinking about anything else. So I kind of used to, I regret this mindset now to the point where those guys that had families and the girls that were with us that had families back home, to where I'm like, hey man, you signed up for this shit. Like, you're sitting there harping about your kids. Like, shut the fuck up. You got a mission to do. Do your mission. Mm-hmm. When it's time to go home, you'll go home. Mm-hmm. So focus on the task at hand and quit your bitching. Mm-hmm. And my second deployment, it was 13 months. We had, there's one of the guys on my team had wife, 2 kids, and he was on the phone constantly, and he's constantly pining about being home and being with his kids. And I'm like, then go the fuck home, dude. Mm-hmm. Let's call back to battalion. Let's get somebody sent out here who wants to be out here. You go home, And I look back now and I'm like, man, that was really a harsh way to view it, because I didn't have kids.
Right.
I didn't have a wife. I didn't have those things waiting for me back home. Mm-hmm. So now at the point in my life that I have these kids, I could not, like you were saying, you're gone 7 days, and you start looking around going, oh man,
it's fucking weird. Yeah.
And it's the same thing by the time Friday rolls around for me to get, like, tomorrow, kids come back tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I cannot wait to be out in front of my house when my son gets off the bus. Mm-hmm. I cannot wait to be standing out in front of the school with parent pickup when my daughter comes out of class. And I look back now and I feel very guilty for treating some of the people the way I did, or saying some of the things I said while we were overseas, because now that I'm in that position, how the hell do you spend 9 months away from your kid? Mm-hmm. How the hell do you spend 13 months away from your family? I have so much more respect and adoration for the individuals that do have families that deploy and go do those things, because now, being in that like father role, now I can understand. Mm-hmm. Before I couldn't.
Right.
And so it's very easy to discount somebody's feelings or discount somebody else's emotions when you've never gone through it yourself.
Everybody feels like they're going to be the best parent in the world. Everybody feels like they have a complete understanding of what that looks like, right? And you can, I'm equally as guilty as anybody else, right? When we were younger and our friends were having kids, and it was like, this is fucking crazy to me. Like, the way that this is working, right? You have your kids, and all of a sudden you're going, I'm no fucking better. In completely maybe different situations, different scenarios, but you don't know how to fucking parent until you have your own kids.
Yeah.
Babysitting doesn't count,
nope.
Because your kids are going to be a completely different animal. And it's one of the wildest realizations that I think, and it's fun watching those switches turn.
And you don't get to walk away after 2 or 3 hours when you're a parent. You're done, in it.
You're cooked.
And that's the thing with like being divorced now. I can't just tell, my significant other at home, like, hey, I'm going to run to Home Depot real quick. Mm-hmm. And then just go wander around Home Depot for 2 hours, mm-hmm. Like lost, just to decompress and get that separation. You don't have that opportunity. You're in it. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm there 7 days a week with those kids on those times. So you appreciate that balance a little bit more when you do have a partner at home that can help out, and you guys, have a good dynamic. Whereas like I'm not afforded that opportunity. And I'm not saying just me, just single parents in general. 100%, I have friends that have, thankfully I'm at 50%, or 50-50, whatever you want to call it, to where, she gets the time, I get the time, we work well together. Hey, the kids are going to go to my parents' house, but 2 of the days are going to bleed into your week. Is that okay? Yeah, absolutely. They're with family, seeing grandpa, of course, you know. Whereas I have friends that are 100% custody, and there's no break. There's no vacations. There's no anything. They're in it. They're in those trenches every single day, and that's a tough fight. And you know, I can't imagine being in that position, because I've either A, had split custody, or B, was living at home with a significant other that we could kind of have that balance. So it's I have a lot of respect for people that, you know, are in it, and they're in it full time.
Yeah.
Because I'm like I said a couple times, I'm fortunate in my position, and not everybody has that opportunity.
And isn't it weird, because you think about, you know, how you just phrase that. It's important, because you always look, and you can find if you can spin it to the positive, which I think that's exactly what you just did, right? It's your situation is hard, but your situation could always be harder, right? Yep. And I think that I look at, you know, my sister-in-law and her husband and brother-in-law, and their son, you know, is her coming in as the stepmom, and I don't know what that's like, you know, and so it's hard for me, but the same thing, 50-50, right? So they're only seeing Colt doing a hell of a job up in Utah. I'm excited for him. So, but now that, you know, watching him grow, and we've known him for a couple of years now, and you know, what that transition coming back, and like the habits that maybe he's, or not the habit, that's a stupid thing to say, but the things that he's able to get away with when he's over at his mom's versus when he comes back home to their house, right? I mean, I can't imagine what that's like. And so I just wanted to take 1 second for what it's worth, and just, you know, nod, you know, make a nod to those that are out there doing the single parent thing, because it's not a fucking small feat. I mean, my wife and I are 100% all the time.
It's a job in of itself.
Hard. Yeah. So it's not lost on me that I cannot imagine what y'all are going through, and this is a shout out to you guys for making that shit happen. So,
and when you talk about like bringing a step parent in, right? What if that step parent also has their kids? Right. So then you're introducing a whole nother dynamic where you're having to have a blended family with kids from previous relationships, and like, well, I'm used to having 2 kids in the house, and now I'm dating this person, they have 2 kids.
The Brady Bunch.
Yeah, thing, starts there's a couple buddies of mine locally that have gone through that recently, and like I give them props, because I look at, you know, let's see, I've been divorced like 5.
Like a little more. I don't know what time you have to go to work tomorrow.
I don't work tomorrow.
Oh, beautiful.
Well, I mean, I do, but I'm self-employed.
Just keep your sunglasses on.
I'll talk to my boss. He's a dick sometimes,
an asshole. That's
but
what I heard.
You know, I joke about that. I'm like, you know,
there you go, bud.
I go, the hardest part for me going to work is I am sexually harassed by my boss.
What a pervert.
Incessantly on a daily basis. And everyone's like, aren't you self-employed? I'm like, yes.
Yeah, what a pervert.
So, what was I saying with that? Oh, the stepkids thing. And so like bringing blended families together can be extremely difficult. And, you know, like I said, it's been 5.5 years or so, and I could probably count on one hand how many dates I've been on in that time frame. I mean, we're in a small town. We don't have a dating pool here, man. It's a dating puddle, and brother, that puddle is muddy as fuck.
It's really muddy,
you know?
yeah.
So,
I know.
So, you know, that's one of those things where, you know, I'm not like bagging on anybody locally or anything like that. It's just one of those things. Small town. It's the way it is.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I don't have the time, effort, energy, whatever, to be dedicating to anything like that in the moment. But when you look around, the people in our age bracket, right, that we've either grown up with, went to school with, whatever the case may be, that are single in this area, chances are they have kids. You know, like, you have people that are a little bit older than us that are maybe widowers, whatever, but their kids are out of college or whatever, they're not at home. Or you have the younger set that's in their mid to late 20s, early 30s, where they have young children at home. I started late, man. I had my son at 37 and my daughter at 42. I'm going to be 60 when she's walking across that graduation stage.
Fuck yeah.
So I'm like, well, as long as my nurse is there holding my oxygen tank, like I'll be good to go, you know. So, I joke about that aspect of it, but it's a very difficult thing. So not only is it hard to try to meet people, is it hard to try to get to know people again and trust people again, and then bring those people into your life, and then you want to wait till you bring your kids around them because you don't want to confuse the kids as much as possible and all this other stuff. So it can be, there's so many different facets, and the dynamic is so different that part of me is like, God, do I even want to bother? And the other part is too, kids come first. Always. Now with that, because Zach has special needs, we know that as long as I am alive, my son will be with me. There may be a point where, and we've talked about it, to where because he's getting bigger, he's getting stronger, doesn't know his own strength, he's starting to overpower his mom a little bit when he throws a fit or things like that. There may be a time where she can't really handle him physically anymore. And we've discussed that and talked about different options. But as long as I am physically of this earth, that boy's not going to go without. So that can be very difficult for a potential partner to realize, like, oh, here's this circumstance that will always be there and is never going to go away. Hey, let's go on a 5-day cruise. Okay, cool. Where's my son going to go? So things like that. So
it's a lot to fucking think about, man.
Yeah. When it comes to the parenting aspect, the relationships aspect, and building that dynamic and everything else, there's just so many different considerations and trust factor and everything else that goes along with that. So a little bit of a tangent, but
no, that's exactly what I wanted to talk about. Like I said, we did a really good job, I think, and by really good job, I'm thinking, a couple episodes in, good job, but for the most part, I mean, we can talk about Jeff Herbert, the badass on the range, the guy that that's got the answers. If you have questions, we can talk about that as well. But I really wanted to kind of touch on something we didn't talk about, and we didn't really talk about you being a single dad. We didn't talk about the struggles that you have, with an 8-year-old going on 18. We didn't talk about any of that the last time. So I really, like I said, the idea is that we're reflecting back on the last 2 years, and I think that's what I find so interesting, because we're seeing such a shift in culture here in the United States, right? And it's like, it's not the same. The last time we sat down and did this, it's amazing how much has happened. And so, figuring out where you're at in the world we're living in, and especially in your world, because it is different, and as far as being a business owner and all the things that come along with that, right? So, but again, tying back into what the toll, what toll that takes on you having to go through all this, and it's different than it was the last time we sat down,
right? And this is it's kind of on the same topic. I don't know if it's timing or whatever, but you're talking about like the changes. Have you seen the new King of the Hill series or episodes?
I have not.
So did you ever watch it back?
I did.
Okay. So that new season came out, and instead of just continuing where they left off, it's actually, it's 10 years later.
Oh, okay.
From when the season ended.
Not like The Simpsons.
Not like The Simpsons. So it's 10 years later, and the main characters, Hank and Peggy, lived in Saudi Arabia for the last 10 years. So they come back to the United States after 10 years removed, and now they're dealing with American society and the differences today to 10 years ago.
How bizarre.
And I found it very entertaining how you have this old school minded individual. Like one of the episodes, Hank has to admit he likes soccer. And he's so embarrassed because he spent his whole life, living in Texas and all about the Cowboys and bagging on soccer, to then he ends up like refereeing soccer games because he actually knows the rules and these other people don't know the rules. And he was like, my friends can't find out. They can't find out I like soccer, and like, so there's like that change. There's the change in society. There's, Bobby's grown up. He's a chef now, and he's part owner of this restaurant. And so like they're seeing their son grow into this like successful adult where he doesn't doesn't need his parents, but still comes home every weekend with a bag of laundry for his mom.
Oh,
that type of
what
thing.
What an interesting concept.
It was, I've always been a fan of the show, and I really like the way they did, the quote new season.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it just kind of played into what you're just talking about, is like how things have changed. And I will say that, like, watching that new season, it kind of reminded me of the things that you were just talking about. Like, oh man, like I didn't think about this, or I didn't consider that. Like, I look at that in the world of self-defense, where was it 5 years ago? Where was it 10 years ago? What were the platforms like? What were the tactics like? What was the training like? And looking at, because I've been teaching CCW in Nevada for a little over 10 years now. I think it was 2015 when I got my start here. Like, I taught in Texas before that. But being here in Carson Valley, I've been teaching for right around a decade, give or take a month. And I look at the change in what we call TTPs, tactics, techniques, and procedures.
Okay.
So I look at the change in TTPs, what's accepted, what's not accepted, things that were prevalent 10 years ago that are not prevalent today, the way laws have changed within the state, what you can and can't do, legally. And so I focus on those things from the professional side, but a lot of times on the personal side or the societal side, I haven't really honed in on a lot of that, because my focus is on this world, this aspect over here. So that show, and it sounds dumb talking about a cartoon that came back 10 years later or 15, however long it's been, to talk about how that's been impactful on my thought process as I go about my daily activities. But it reminded me, like, oh yeah, like, look at the differences. It's easy to put your face in that cell phone screen and live in that world, and you're still only getting a little snippet of whatever the algorithm decides to choose to show you for that day, or you're focusing on one or two mainstream media channels or something, and you might not have your eyes open to what is actually going on around you on a consistent basis. I've really kind of opened I would say over the last 4 to 6 months, driving around just Carson Valley, Gardnerville, and seeing and I do not want this to sound bad. This is not it's gonna come out bad. It's not the intent.
You're gonna get me fired up, and we're gonna go. This is gonna be the segment right here. Let's go.
So there's been a big increase in diversity.
Oh, I didn't think that's where it's going to go.
Oh. I was like, uh-oh.
I'm just kidding.
There's there's a big increase in diversity in the Valley. In just like the last maybe 4 or 5 years. Right. So, when my sister moved to Southern Oregon, the place that they moved, it's a very conservative area and very similar to the way it is around here. She lives outside Medford, in Jacksonville, in Jackson County, Southern Oregon. Nice, quiet community. And, we grew up on the coast, Central California, right? I'm born and raised in Santa Cruz. And
that's where I thought we were going, is to the white plates. I thought we were going to talk about California.
Oh, don't even know. That's a whole nother podcast all of itself. And
that's where I thought
we need to pregame a bottle before the podcast starts, before we start ripping into that. Yeah. That's a whole nother 8-hour conversation. Even my daughter, 8 years old, driving to school in the morning, and Carl cut us off or something, and she goes, "Those California drivers," like, oh man, like she's a sponge.
She knows.
But in one thing my sister said when she moved up there was like, it's there's a real lack of diversity up here. I'm like, well, number one, you visited up here numerous times before you moved up here. You knew that coming into the game, and it's one of those things where there's other aspects that go along with that type of community. So the point I'm going with that is, you may not notice certain aspect and certain changes in your community until you really start paying attention. For example, right, we're in a small town, we're a small community. How many officer-involved shootings has Douglas County Sheriff's Office had in the last 2 years in the Valley? 6. 6 officer-involved shootings in sleepy little Gardnerville, sleepy little Minden. Right? we don't hear about it a lot unless like you're familiar with somebody who works in law enforcement or works at the hospital and, as a first responder or something along those lines. But for the most part, we don't really hear too much about that. Big part of that is, what is the main revenue generator for the Carson Valley?
Tourism.
So are we going to want to advertise the criminal element of the valley and how many shootings our officers have been involved in that can affect tourism and the amount of money coming into the valley? Same thing in Reno. And this is where I really started looking at this, was when I was working as the project manager for Invictus up in Reno. Is we were trying to land this client that had like 6 facilities in Reno, and they wanted to go unarmed security. Now, unarmed security is nothing but a paid witness. Right? We can't do anything, right? You got no handcuffs, you don't have a gun, you don't have this, you don't have that. All you're there is you're paid a lot of money to write a statement, essentially. So
interesting.
They wanted to go unarmed, and I'm like, okay, do me a favor, look at this address, which was the address of one of their dispensaries, because this was a cannabis-related business that we were going to be doing security for. So put in this address, go to city data, city-data.com, and I want you to put that address and then look up violent crime within 2 miles of that facility. Give me because this company's headquartered out of Florida, so I have no idea. They don't have any concept of what goes on here locally, right? So go ahead, look that up. Call me tomorrow. Tell me what you found. He calls me the next day. He's like, "Holy shit!" Because this place is right. It's catty corner from the Aces Stadium off of 2nd Street, right there, 2nd Street in Virginia. And you have a huge homeless population there. You've got homeless encampments there. You've got heavy drug use. You've got the amount of violent crime in that 2-mile radius was astounding. And he's going, I never thought of you don't ever hear about this. Like, you hear Reno is this quirky little city. I'm like, of course you do, because it's all casinos. It's all nightlife. It's a little mini Vegas, or more like a mini Atlantic City, as far as whatever you want to call it. But there's a huge amount of crime that goes on in there, and you don't hear about it because Reno gets all its revenue off of tourism, just like the Carson Valley down here. So you don't hear, you ask somebody, hey, did you hear about the woman last year who got carjacked at gunpoint in the Smith's parking lot at 10:30 in the morning? No, I never heard about that. Exactly. Because stuff like that doesn't really,
by design, right?
Yeah, it's by, and that's where, like, I will say, where like Facebook or Instagram comes in a little bit handy, because you have these community forums that people communicate with. And, that's how I found out about it, was like, what's happening in Gardnerville or whatever the case may be. So, you hear those things, but as far as the actual news reporting things, you don't hear any of that. So that's kind of a long road to talk about, how things have changed. But, look at the amount of traffic driving through the valley on a daily basis.
Sure.
If you're in, the Rayleigh's parking lot trying to cut across because you want to head south to go towards Walmart or, Topaz Ranch Estates or whatever, trying to get across the traffic at, say, 4:30 in the afternoon, good freaking luck, man. Hang a right, go a couple blocks up, wait for a stoplight, flip a U-turn, and then go back. That's going to be your best bet. Traffic's gotten exponentially worse. Like you mentioned, the white license plates we're inundated. And we all, I moved here because it's a small town. I like that people were respectful.
God damn this thing. I got it.
People were respectful and honored their neighbor, and people were friendly and polite, and we're seeing some of that go away. And unfortunately, that has to do with certain lifestyles and mentalities of people who weren't born and raised here, who want to come to this area because it's absolutely beautiful. I've never felt more at home anywhere than I've lived in my entire life than I do here.
Yeah.
And so,
keep telling your story, though.
So it's one of those things where we come here for a reason. We settle here for a reason. Look at guys like Litka and yourself, who like born and raised here. This is like it's home. And because of the mentality, because of the personalities, because of what that small town feel does, and this is how we want to raise our kids. We want them to have good morals and good values. And then you have developers that say, hey, here's all this ranch land. Let's go ahead and let's pay off a county commission to change this from ag land to single family use so we can develop it. And then they sell out the valley. And then we have what we're going through now with certain areas
Now you're
blowing
getting me
up.
fired up, Jeff.
So,
Now we're talking.
Sorry, man.
Now,
Sorry.
It's tough because, and for most of the people that follow me and watch these episodes, I mean, no lie, everybody's fairly local, right? And so it's hard because we all know. but for those of you that don't, I mean, you know, when I was conceived, when I was born, this valley was it was hovering right around 20,000 people. Not even let me start over.
The county,
this
probably.
county was about 20,000 people.
So you're probably talking 7 to 10 in the valley.
And so that's a lot. And we have a big slice. We have Incline Village. We have South Lake Tahoe. We had plenty of not here in Carson Valley.
Right.
And so now we're at and the last I checked on the 2024 census was at the upwards of 60. So it's
I thought we were hovering at like 45,
No.
48. Oh,
so
wow.
it is now this county is now 3 times larger than when I was born just a couple of years ago. And so for me, the shock never ceases to amaze me. You know? And so when I see these big developments, these big national builders come in, it breaks my fucking heart. So I can get very worked up about it. However, on the flip side of that, which is I'm trying to digest, is the grow or die mentality. We need this apparently because without that, how could we have a Shack's Chicken here? And how could we continue to just import people to live here just to go work in Reno? I mean, how could we do that, right? So,
well, we need it within reason, for one. And the rate of growth that we're seeing, I would say, just in the last 2 years, like after COVID, when it's all like building materials started dropping in price, permits were starting to come out again, right? So we're seeing this big explosive growth. So essentially this is 3 years worth of growth that's all kind of happening at one time.
And it feels that way, honestly, dude. There's so many motherfuckers.
Being born and raised in Santa Cruz, before, I left Santa Cruz in 95, never looked back. Being from that area, think of in the early 90s was all the dot-commers and all these, the big tech blow up happened, when I was like a junior and senior in high school. And we were seeing individuals that were becoming millionaires overnight, back when $1 million was actually a lot of money. They're becoming millionaires overnight. So what they were doing is the cost of living in Silicon Valley had blown up. San Jose, right over on the other side of Highway 17, things were getting very expensive there. So people were coming to Santa Cruz and buying up property at a reduced rate and just making that commute because Santa Cruz was very beautiful. You got the Monterey Bay right there, and it's a fantastic place to live physically. But then you start bringing in the politics start changing, and this starts changing, that starts changing. And then I went home 5-6 years ago for just a couple days, and I felt like a tourist in my hometown. The place I was born and raised was a shell of itself. It was Santa Cruz by name only. People I know that were Santa Cruz proud, that like born and raised, I'm never leaving. They're calling me like, hey man, what's Nevada like? Like, what's it like out there? I'm like, I thought you're never leaving. They're like, man, fuck this place. And it's all about the dollar and who can spend what. And I got friends that I was raised with that the only reason that they're still living there is they bought into a house in their mid-20s because they married their high school sweetheart. They've been working at the same company for 30 years, so they can afford, they almost own their house outright at this point, or they've, got seconds, mortgages or whatever, borrowed against the equity, whatever. But I'm like looking at housing prices, and I'm looking at, this is what you do for a living, this is the housing. How can you afford to be there?
Yes.
Like even now, when I sold my house after the divorce, we sold it for over double what we paid for it. And we put nothing into it. We lived in it for 7 years. And it was worth that much more. And then I look at the value now, it's worth even more than that. And it's just one of the things, how does anybody do it anymore?
I know. That's a common question in this house. How the fuck does it work?
Yeah. It's nuts.
It is nuts, and that's a great reminder of how much things have changed just in the last couple of years. It's been interesting to kind of, and this was a fun, like for me to write up the some of the questions, like some of the direction of the show, it was kind of fun because it's the first time that I've actually sat down with somebody again this far after we started the show. So it's neat to, well, it's not neat, it's very sad, but to see how far you've come, how my life has changed in the last 2 years, and then also to reflect on like where we're at as a country, where we're at as a state, and then even localize it even more, what this county looks like. It is, I don't want to be like a doom and gloomer, but it's a little concerning, and I think that we have so much. If you're going to sit and read headlines and you're going to try to dissect what the media is trying to tell you, or trying to figure out exactly, decode, I guess would be a better word, right? And you take out all the bullshit and try to take out all the politics and try to see where we land. And there's a lot happening, but it doesn't change, and it shouldn't take away from the fact that you're still out here succeeding, doing a great job. And I really did want to hone in on that fact that, again, it's neat when I watch especially on TikTok, like, again, circling back to the dads helping dads and the dudes helping dudes thing. It's so neat to see you, because you post these videos of you and your daughter, and you post these videos of you and Zach, and I see you out there kicking ass, and I see you out there, but knowing the struggle that comes with that. And I want to say that it makes my heart sing. It makes me so fucking happy to see you doing the shit that you're doing, to see you out there, you're still fucking crushing it. And that's a testament to how strong of a foundation you've built. And I just want to say that I'm as stupid as it sounds, very fucking proud of you, proud to know you.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much.
And when it all goes down, I just want to say, it's an honor to have you here. And, I don't have my humidor here, but the last time we got together, you gave me a challenge coin.
Yep.
And that does not fall on deaf ears. It means, when you did that for me, it meant a lot to me. And so every episode that I do, I hope that I can encompass the strength, the durability, be the elastomer, be the glue that you are. And I just wanted to let you know that I'm fucking proud of you, dude.
Thank you, man.
You're a badass motherfucker. Dudes helping dudes, dads helping dads. We are rounding out September, which is kind of a somber month. It's an awareness month, and it's for one of those things that I kind of touched on earlier, but men, we don't necessarily get to talk about our feelings. We shouldn't.
We move in silence.
We've been told not to.
Yeah.
And Jeremy Litka was one of the first people to come on the show and just go, man. You know what? Fuck the stereotype.
Yep.
Let's fucking talk about it. Let's fucking hug it out. No homo.
Yep.
I'm just saying, I'm proud of you, dude. Then just say it.
Jeremy's one of those guys. When I talk to, my partner Corky, so I've mentioned his name a couple times. He's, business partner, but Corky and I, we met doing our recon indoc back in 2000 in Hawaii. That's how we met. And we're going through this event together, which is just sucks. And then it's like, hey man, I like to drink beer. Do you like to drink beer? Yeah. Hey, I like cigars. Do you like cigars? Yeah. So we started hanging out. And then, I was on the Marine Corps rugby team out there, and I was like, hey, I like violence. Do you like violence? He's like, yeah. I go, would you like to go commit violence on a rugby pitch? And then we played rugby together, and then we deployed together. We've been to combat together. Like, we've been through all these life experiences together. We've always stayed very close. So when he retired, got his time, he moved his family out here, and we're doing a lot of this stuff together. And I'm just so happy to have my brother here. But what I'm going off of that is, like, every conversation I have with Litka, at the end of the conversation is like, I love you, brother. Mm-hmm. Every conversation, when I end it with Corky, it's, I love you, brother. Mm-hmm. My bro Jared Cummings, like, he's local, same small business owner. He's a house painter. His wife is one of the bartenders at Minden Mill. Mm-hmm. So he's out in the community, and he's a musician. He's got his band, and I was a musician once upon a time, and so we've talked about that.
Slapping the bass,
slapping the bass, right? So he and I have that, and same thing. It's like, I fucking love you, man. Mm-hmm. Like, I did some donations for the DCSO Honor Guard
Thank you.
golf event.
Yes, you did.
And so the tournament was this last weekend. So because of the donations, I got a free foursome. So it was me, it was Litka, it was Jared, and it was Bobby Watson from DC Jiu-Jitsu, and he's I think we're supplying
hell of a guy,
a coffee, awesome dude, right? So I got these 3 stellar individuals, and it turns out they've all known each other forever too, and it was probably one of the best. Did we golf very well? No, we did not. But did we have fun and did we enjoy each other? So that was one of the best times to be able to hang out with some brothers. And at the end of the day, it's I fucking love you, man. Tell your friends you love them. Make it weird. Tell them all the fucking time, because pretty soon you may not have that opportunity. They may be gone. You may be gone. You may just separate distance. There's that saying that this hurts too when I say this is, one day, you and all your neighborhood friends got on your bikes and went for a ride for the last time, and none of you knew it.
Hated that one.
It's like, oh my God.
That's so true, right?
I grew up in a cul-de-sac with 8 other kids of similar age ranges, and we were a menace. We just bombed around everywhere together. And one day, it was the last day.
All the cul-de-sac bros in the chat. Let's go. Come on.
Hashtag cul-de-sac.
Hashtag cul-de-sac.
So,
that's
it's,
sad.
and talking to guys like Bobby Wilson, right, that grew up in this area, and he would tell me story, and Daniel Tingle, and guys that are from the area, that are born and raised here, that are telling stories. Hey, when we were kids, man, we would ride our bikes down these dirt roads for hours. We'd do this, that, and they're telling me about their experiences of growing up in this valley as a kid, and how tight knit it was, and we'd ride over here and we'd float the river, and then one of our buddies' dads was just chilling down there fishing in his truck. Let me drive you guys, back up here and go get your bikes.
In the bed of the truck when it was
in the bed of the truck, and so
okay.
Things like that, and it's just, you don't see that anymore, and it's such a bummer. But like I was saying before, all we can do is do our best to raise our kids the best way we can, to create good human beings that can hopefully try to swing the pendulum of society back towards some semblance of normalcy.
I love that. So Jeff, here's what I'm going to do. And this is, I don't know if this is going to stick or not, and if it's going to do well, but this is the very first time we have done an uncorked episode. And I don't know how it's any different. I don't know. I think I loved this just as much as the first time we hung out. The content may have been a little bit different. It's just a continuation of part 2. So, but what I would like to maybe try, if you would like to, is you lead us out in the final toast, and we put this puppy to bed. You up for the challenge?
Up for the challenge.
Okay. You got enough in your glass there.
I got enough in my glass. Yeah.
There's more.
So I got a little top off.
Yeah,
this actually, this drink's a little too easy.
Okay, I know. This is
very smooth.
And again, to the origin of this bottle, as far as the podcast is concerned, when we got done with this thing, we were silly as shit, and I had the best night. And again, this bottle has not disappointed me with stories, with laughs, with welting of the eyes. It is
here and there.
It's amazing. It's an amazing pour, and it's affordable. And the team over there at Redwood Empire are something special, and I want to make sure that they understand that, because I don't think that the bottles and me talking about them I don't do them enough justice.
Right.
I'm not that guy. I'm not Troy, and I can't do them any service. So, but again, this has been, now with the 2 episodes we record, so we're talking 5 hours of love, almost 6 on this Redwood Empire bottles.
So what I will say is, I love bourbon. Been drinking bourbon for many years, and I don't normally get into the technical aspects of particular bourbons. I go off of flavor, just how it tastes. The thing that, when you were talking about the mash bill on this, talking about the amount of corn and then with a little bit of rye, and that piqued my interest, because my house wine was Bullet Rye for a long time.
Okay.
And it's the only rye I really enjoyed. I tried Knob Creek and this and that, some of the other ryes, and it was a little harsh, but bullet was still sweet, but still had that little bit of bite of the rye. So the Bullet Rye and now it's like Buffalo Trace is my go-to. I love Buffalo Trace. So when you're talking about the corn content and then the fact that there's some rye in there as well, I was like, oh. And the thing I liked about this was you have the sweetness of the corn, that very typical sweet bourbon sweetness, but you have just that little hint of a bite at the end of it of the rye, and the balance is fantastic. So yeah, thank you for bringing that one out.
And
this was a good
if
pick.
You have not tried the barrel proof version of this pipe dream, it will blow your doors off. I mean, it is a orgasm in your fucking mouth. It's disgustingly amazing. So if you want to emphasize that the room that they're doing, their tasting room, looks so cool. So maybe one of these days we just go take a little trip down the road and go check this. We'll load up the minivan, the Odyssey. We'll get an Odyssey. We'll find an Odyssey. All the boys jump in it. We'll go head over the hill and go check this place out.
There we go. I like that.
Okay.
I like that.
All right, Jeff, what do you got, brother?
Well, let's see. Normally, like when I'm asked to do a toast, it's military oriented, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to think of something that's on topic for what we discussed tonight. Regardless of good, bad, or indifferent, we cannot control what goes on around us. The only thing that we can control is our emotional response to it. We need to do better as individuals. We need to do better as society at controlling our emotional responses to what's going on around us. Put ourselves above the chatter. Be the person that the 5-year-old you wanted you to be. Less judgmental, more empathy, more sympathy. Look out for your neighbors, care for your neighbors, protect each other, protect your community. Face the bully, stand tall, stay aware, be ready, be loyal, avoid violence if possible, and if not, win fully. Honor your neighbor, family first, protect those you love at all costs, and don't be a victim.
That's huge. Cheers.
Cheers. And thank you again for having me. This was I was stoked when you reached. Hey, what are you doing? You got the kids? You got some free time? You want to come? Like, oh yes,
want to drink some whiskey? Now this is a prime opportunity for you to do a plug. I want you to do the very best you can and let them know. Like I said, I feel like you really did a great job tonight expressing why you are the number one choice, why we should be coming to you for all the shit. But go ahead and show them where to find you and what we can get from you.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. No, just kidding. So name of the company is ODM Defense. We're here down in Carson Valley. Our shop is right off of Johnson Lane. We do all manner of things related to the Second Amendment. If we don't do it, we have contacts that do. So whether you're looking for a new firearm, you're looking for training, you're looking for a custom holster, you're looking for advice, you're looking for recommendations, whatever the case may be, that is what we're here for. We offer all different levels of firearms training, from somebody who's never touched a gun in their life all the way up to, advanced room clearing, CQB, and team movement. If you and your buddies want to come out and learn how to, clear a house, we do that. Firearms transfers, we're the cheapest in the valley. We have a very good value on our firearms transfers. Anytime we're dealing with first responders, LE, paramedics, EMTs, dispatchers, you work at the hospital, whatever the case may be, if you're in the first responder industry, we offer 20% off all of our services. As far as firearms transfers, like I mentioned, we only charge $20 on our transfers. If you fall under that first responder category, it's $10 per transfer. And that is not per item. You bring in 5 things and it's on 144.73. That's it's $10. So anything having to do with the Second Amendment, as far as training, as far as guns, supplies, ammunition, whatever, we can provide that for you. We're trying to be the Valley's go-to spot for anything Second Amendment related. We try to keep a good working relationship with those around us, try to collaborate where we can. And, that's what we provide. Again, I do this full time. So if your day off is the only day you have off is a Tuesday, that's fine. Give me a call. We can look at the calendar, schedule something on Tuesday, and we're not going to ding you on the money side for that. We're here to help. We're here to educate. We're here to provide service, and I try to do that to the best of my ability. So please feel free to reach out with any questions. Our website is just odmdefense.com. So it's www.odmdefense.com. If you want to find us on social media, TikTok, I can't post anything on TikTok because everything's gun related, unfortunately. Most of my TikTok content, as Joel mentioned, is predominantly, fatherhood and just trying to function in today's society. But on TikTok, I think it's Shooter McGraybeard. It is. Shooter McGraybeard is the TikTok handle. And then if you want to follow the business on social media, we do have Instagram and Facebook. It's just at ODM Defense. You can find us. And ODM, I get asked a lot, what does ODM stand for? ODM stands for Oderint Dum Metuant, which is Latin. It means let them hate so long as they fear. So it's a strong message and something that I feel very passionate about. So I wear it.
Of course. And with that, I'm Joel Potter, and I am the host of the Bourbon and Ballistics Podcast. You can find us on all social platforms at Bourbon and Ballistics. I did drop some merch, and I think it's cool. And I've made it to where the profit margin is $0. So basically the only people that are, the Printfuls is printing the stuff for me. It's all print on demand at this point because who's going to wear my shit? Nobody. But if you want to wear my shit, you can go to Printful, look up Bourbon and Ballistics, and
contraire, bonjour.
Check this stuff out. And it's, it's all fun. I tried to make it not so brand forward, so you can wear it and not feel like you're really, having to really dive into Bourbon and Ballistics. But go to Printful, look it up. Everything's set to $0. I just, they're going to print it for me. They're going to ship it to you. I hope you wear it. Hope you love it. And if you need anything, want anything different, please reach out and let me know. I want to see you guys out there. The idea is that it's Jeff Herbert. It's the people out there that are on the show that make this show. I don't want to make it about me as much fun as that would be. It's you guys that are actually keeping people coming. And so tonight's conversation was different than the first one.
I will say this is not at all what I expected for tonight to be, but I'm extremely pleasantly surprised.
I think it was a lot of fun.
This was a good time.
And so, Jeff, thank you again for making the long trek from your hard day under that slave ass son of a bitch you worked for and driving all them miles to come over. Now, Jeff just lives right down the street and he actually works just down the road. So it was perfect, and he gets to, we're going to make sure that you get home safe, of course.
Yes, of course.
And again, Redwood Empire, I love what you guys are doing, and unfortunately I'm not the guy that's going to be able to make this bottle as sexy as it should be, but it's back on the show. That should be a telltale sign. Most of these bottles have seen some sort of activity since we started the show in September of 2023, and I hope at some point we can keep this thing moving. I really enjoyed circling back on some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so with that, I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you.
Thank you
for being here, sticking with me for this long as we encounter a new horizon. I don't know what that looks like.
So what Doc Holliday say at the end of Tombstone? Life is just life. There is no normal.
There is no normal.
Life is just life, and all we can go do is just be the best people we can and hope that we're changing things in the right direction.
That's it. All right, brother. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I don't want
Glad
to
be here.
Badass toast, but
thank you guys for being here as well. Thanks for tuning in and listening to me run my mouth. Appreciate it.
It is cool.
I cross state lines with hillbillies and guns. It's been a hell of a ride and a whole lot of fun. They gave me many names down there in Dixie, but the main one that stood